Camping, an infamous strategy as old as time itself. It comes in many forms, be it spending the majority of your time in the same general area of a map, or setting up shop in one specific and extremely advantageous spot and refusing to leave. As stated by stylists themselves, camping is a legitimate tactic. However, while camping is a totally legitimate strategy in Phantom Forces, it's still a highly controversial and divisive one, with some players, mainly low ranks, enjoying it, but with high ranks absolutely despising it. For low ranks, camping makes it easy to lock down an objective or control a large area of the map without having to reposition, all while staying relatively hidden from potential enemies. But high ranks don't have the attention span to sit in one spot all game, and they aren't quite fond of dying to BFG users who get 10 kills and 0 deaths by silently camping in the same part of the map for the whole game. So camping in the traditional sense is quite rare among high ranks, especially since most of them have mastered PF's movement, which yields far better results in most cases. If you happen to be a high rank yourself, you might be wondering how camping could possibly be enjoyable in this game. There are so many more exciting ways to play PF, and yet these kids find happiness in simply sitting quietly at the back of the map with their sniper rifle of choice and being a general nuisance to the rest of the server. Why is that? But more importantly, how can you, as a high rank, experience the same sense of enjoyment from camping as low ranks? Well, fear not, my friend, because I have just the map for you. A map that does the unthinkable and makes camping in one spot for the entire game enjoyable. Even for those who are skilled enough to use movement effectively, this map is so egregiously good for camping that advanced movement becomes entirely unnecessary in some cases. And this map might not be what you expect. This is Penthouse. It's one of the smallest maps in the game, only around 300 studs long from end to end. It's very obviously a close quarters map, with shotguns and PDWs being especially dominant here compared to other weapon classes. Penthouse is very fast paced and is just barely large enough to work with PF server size. In terms of kill potential, it's one of the best maps for high kill games, so I'm going to explain the strategy for this map, and I promise you'll be shocked by how simple it is. As a ghost, you'll spawn on this side of the map. There might be enemies in your spawn even at the very start of the game, so you'll just have to try your hardest to break out of there as soon as possible. Once you're out of your spawn, the next thing you should do is make your way over to this staircase, and this right here is one of the most broken camping spots in the entire game. You will get an unholy number of kills just by standing in this one spot. There are a ridiculous number of angles that are covered by just this one staircase. Even if the Phantoms start spawning closer to the ghost side of the map, you can cover the middle hallways just as easily from the staircase, as well as just about every other path the Phantoms might choose to take out of their spawn. And the most hilarious part about the staircase is that literally no one uses it on the Phantom side. It is quite literally the perfect camping spot. You can cover nearly every single angle in the Phantom spawn just from this one staircase, and if things get too overwhelming on the top floor, you can just duck down to the bottom. However, keep in mind that you're still sitting right there in the middle of the enemy spawn, so situational awareness is key. There are some maps in Phantom Forces where you can turn your music up while playing the game. This isn't one of them. Audio cues are essential for predicting where enemies are going to come from, and even with all of that, you might still end up getting unlucky and dying just because enemies are spawning on both floors. But that's a given on any map, and doesn't take away from the fact that this is perhaps the single most broken camping spot in the whole game. Now, as a Phantom, you don't have to worry too much about this because very few people have enough working brain cells to even use the staircase in your spawn, and those who do just don't play Penthouse. Make your way over to this staircase opposite to the one I just mentioned. This staircase, while not quite as egregiously overpowered as the one on the Phantom side in terms of sightlines, is much easier to defend in comparison because the stairs are solid and can't be shot through. If you aren't finding as many enemies, rotate to this other staircase located deeper into the ghost spawn. Even though you're pretty exposed from here, you'll probably be fine since nobody knows what the hell they're doing when they're in this part of the map, and in general, just rotate back and forth between these staircases for the entire game. And that's it. You just solved Penthouse. Obviously, you shouldn't spend the whole game camping the stairs, but you'll be spending a lot more time camping on Penthouse than you would on Metro, for instance. And this isn't even the end of it. There are plenty more spots on this map where you can just set up shop for a minute and wait for enemies to appear. A few more things that I should mention. This central area of the map, ignore it for most of the game. There's nothing out here that's more worth your time than the indoor areas of the map. Unless you're crossing through it to get to one of the staircases I mentioned, stay out of this part because you're exposed from all sides. This desk in the ghost spawn is a really funny camping spot if you're caught between the two staircases. If you duck behind one of the two walls here, you should be relatively safe and you'll be able to regain control of the situation fairly easily from there. In general, backmapping is really dumb on Penthouse even if you're trying to pull off a ghost side spawn trap. There's not really any good places to do it, and since it's so small, snipers are borderline useless here. Either play aggressively or camp the stairs, ideally both. Speaking of which, you can still play aggressively and get a lot of kills on Penthouse, even though it is an extremely campy map. If you want to be a sweaty aggro player, then you should mainly stick to the cramped rooms in the back of the map, near the B point, or within the Phantom spawn. A hyper-aggressive playstyle generally won't work well if you're playing Phantoms. The Ghost spawn only has one room where you can really dunk on people, while the Phantom side gives you plenty of opportunities to get up in their faces. Finally, Penthouse Hardpoint is really scary because it ends early more often than on any other map in the game, and it's entirely due to this top floor. There are only two staircases going up here, both of which are easily covered, and this wouldn't be a problem if the point didn't occasionally spawn there. Whichever team controls this floor while the point is there should be expected to gain around 100 to 200 points during that time. So yeah, Stylus, please nerf the top floor of this map. Thanks. On that note, this is probably the best sniping spot on the entire map. Not because it's good for sniping, mind you, from this spot you can see everywhere on this map except for where people are actually spawning, but because it gives your teammates easy access to the enemy spawn as well as the occasional hardpoint objectives like I mentioned earlier, so if you really want to snipe, do it from here. So, that's all there is to Penthouse, the best camping map in Phantom Forces. It's a very interesting map, and while it has a ton of issues, it's still extremely fun, and the best part about all of this is that high ranks avoid this map like it's the plague, so it isn't as sweaty as Metro. The term camping is often used with a bad connotation, but on this map it's actually super fun because Penthouse, and I cannot stress this enough, is a terrible map for sniping, so don't even try. It gets frustrating at times with how heavily it favors shotguns and PDWs, but it's nowhere near as bad as containers, which, in light of the revamp it got semi-recently, I have a lot to say about, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.